17 minutes past 5, a little bit later with the headlines. Now, the BBC has been criticised sharply by the government's spending watchdog over payoff deals for senior managers. The National Audit Office said the payments put public trust at risk after the corporation paid out £60 million to over 400 senior staff as it sought to cut management posts. The BBC's new Director General, Tony Hall, says he's putting a stop to the practice. David Sillitoe reports.
That £60 million, by the way, just to remind you, is 415,000 licence fees. David Sillitoe, BBC News.
A single Chinese lantern's being blamed for a huge fire at a plastics recycling plant in Smethwick. In Smethwick for us there. An extradition hearing has opened for Shreen Dewani. He's accused of the honeymoon murder of his wife in South Africa. Police are looking for the former partner of a woman who was found dead at her home in Salford on Saturday. The former head of Canada's central bank, Mark Carney, has taken up his new post as Governor of the Bank of England. Mr Carney, who replaces Sir Mervyn King, is described as the financial rock star of banking. But he faces a huge job. The economy is said to be flatlining. Inflation is still above the bank's target. Our chief economics correspondent, Hugh Pym, reports. Right, 28 minutes past 5, and this is BBC News coming up. Time for a look at the weather now, and Matt's already talked about the weekend. This is excellent, Matt.
It is. Things are looking good, Emily.
Matt, thanks. Hello again. It's exactly 5:30. This is BBC News, and these are our headlines. Sport now. There's an awful lot of upset at Wimbledon. Let's get the latest from the BBC Sports Centre and Dan Pallett. Hi, Dan. Let's bring you more now on the protests in Egypt. And the head of the army there has given politicians 48 hours to resolve the crisis before the military steps in to offer what it calls a roadmap for peace. The ultimatum comes after anti-government protesters stormed the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood, demanding the resignation of the president. Well, when he was inaugurated a year ago, Mohamed Morsi promised to give Egypt a facelift in 100 days. But many Egyptians now accuse him of failing to tackle the country's problems. Let's take a look at the president's first year in power. On the 1st of June last year, Mohamed Morsi narrowly won the presidential election. In August, he stripped the military of any say in legislation, sacking the defence minister and the chief of staff. Egyptians took part in a referendum in December and approved a draft constitution. In March this year, Morsi's plans to bring parliamentary elections forward were blocked by the Egyptian court. And last month, he put Islamists in charge of 13 of the country's 27 governorships. Well, joining me now from Cambridge is Mona Al-Kazaz, a spokesperson for the Muslim Brotherhood in the UK. Thanks very much for joining us, Mona. What do you make of this ultimatum that's been issued by the army? Clear position, but it sounds like they're asking for the resignation of Morsi at the very least, doesn't it?
I don't think
like they want him very much anymore. There are reports that the former CIA analyst Edward Snowden has applied for political asylum in Russia. Britain has sealed business deals worth £700 million during David Cameron's visit to Kazakhstan. The Prime Minister met the country's president and signed a deal extending the ties between the two nations. Mr Cameron also tackled President Nazarbayev's Kazakhstan's human rights record following allegations of state-sponsored torture and the imprisonment of government critics. Our political correspondent Carol Walker reports.
The economy here could provide vital opportunities for struggling British companies. Carol Walker, BBC News, Kazakhstan.
Just coming up to 5:45. These are our headlines on BBC News. To Wimbledon, where the British women's #1 Laura Robson's been knocked out by Estonia's Kaia Kanepi in straight sets. 19-year-old Robson was hoping to become the first British woman to make the quarterfinals of the championship since Jo Durie in 1984. Then came a bigger shock. Serena Williams, the defending champion, who was on 34-match winning streak, was beaten. She lost over 3 sets to Sabine Lisicki of Germany. With me now, Suta, reaction to the Serena news, because that's probably quite hard. She was saying to us a few minutes ago, was on her side. They were quite excited, to, as you say, to see a big surprise. But she had that awful British weight of expectation again, didn't she?
Yeah.
For 15 years to have got this far. Why are we always... It seems always behind a lot of other countries on this one. Have had as much coverage as any of the men's champions, haven't they?
yes.
There was a lot of momentum, let's say, to talk more about women's sports, give them more coverage, more airtime. Has that lasted the year? Indeed. Thanks for joining us. Sue Tibbles, Chief Executive, Women's Sport and Fitness Foundation. Now, for decades, scientists have been trying to find alternatives to coal, oil and gas. The latest idea, though, is to harness the power of the sea. It's not wave power they're working on this time, it's seaweed. In northwest Scotland, they're trying to convert the stuff into biofuel. And our science reporter, Victoria Gill, explains.
More familiar sight around the UK coast. Victoria Gill, BBC News.
It's 10 minutes to 6. Now, one of the UK's most treasured possessions, the Lindisfarne Gospels, goes on show in its home of Durham today. The manuscript is over 1,000 years old, adorned with jewels, and is expected to attract visitors from right across the world. From Durham, Fiona Trott reports.
This patient and talented monk wrote the Gospels to honour God and St Cuthbert. It's an honour to him that future generations have preserved them with such care. Fiona Trott, BBC News, Durham.
Now, every day British businesses are under cyber attack and face industrial espionage on a massive scale, according to the head of the intelligence agency GCHQ. So just who is watching who? The US has accused China of being behind many of the attacks, but British and American agencies have also faced accusations of cyber spying. Our security correspondent Gordon Carrera has this report. Right now, though, it's time for a look at the weather. Here's Matt Taylor. Hi, Matt.
Thank you, Emily. Hello there. A bit more sunshine, warmth coming our way.